I was asked to come to a mommy blogging conference, and to do this conference and do a keynote for them, I was gonna have to go from Vegas, where I was speaking for Sony, and speaking in Vegas is like hell on earth, okay? But I was doing 11 speaking sessions in 4 days for Sony, and then I was gonna have to fly to this mommy blogging conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was like, I'm not gonna have anything to give these women. I can't go. So I told her, I love that you invited me. I'm so honored, but the timing is off. She calls back again, and she's like, a month later, and she's like, I just can't get you off of my mind. I really think you're supposed to be at this conference. And I tell her, I really love that you feel that way. I can't go. So can you believe she calls me back a third time? And she is like, you are gonna think I'm nuts. And she's like, I don't know like where you're at with God or what your religion is, because lots of times I'm out there speaking and it's most 95% of the time it's not in the church. And so she's like, I just have to tell you though that every time I pray about this conference, I see you meeting somebody here. You probably think I'm trying to manipulate you to come to my conference, but that I just have to say it. I said it, I'll leave it. You can do whatever you want. Well, obviously, she has a prophetic word, so I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to Tennessee, right? So we go to this conference, and honestly, like nothing really like that unusual happens. I meet a ton of mommy bloggers who are just a whole story in itself. And I finally just feel like, I look at Brian, I'm like, I feel like we need to head home. And so we decide to actually leave the conference before it's even over, and they're okay with that. I'm done speaking and they feel good. And so we go to the airport in the middle of the day, and nobody's in the airport except for Brian and I and these two women behind us. And so Brian and I fly separate. We fly so much, so we never fly on the same plane. And so we're going through two different security lines, and he's flirting with me like he doesn't know me, and he wants to know if I want to meet him on the other side of security at the bar for a drink. And I'm like, you are so ridiculous, right? And so I'm like, and he's like, well, will you? Well, will you? Well, don't you know you want to? And he's just out of control. So finally I'm like, yes, we can meet for a drink on the other side of security. We get through security and he grabs me, he double dips me, and he gives me this crazy kiss in the middle of the airport. I'm like, what are you doing right now? Okay, two women are trailing behind us. One of those two women drops her bag and she goes, for crying out loud, you're married, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, we're married. I'm not gonna meet a guy I don't know for a drink on the other side of security. And so literally she looks at me and she's like, I'm so depressed about my marriage just looking at you guys. And so Brian has to go catch his flight. So he runs to catch it. And I look at her and I'm like, I have an hour. Tell me what you're depressed about. So for the next hour, we sit down and we talk about her marriage, her sex life, her kids, and we talk about everything. And then they start to board my plane. And I'm like, you never even told me your name, what you're doing here. I'm here for Disney undercover looking for a mom to build a brand around.